Hey, Ryan. Hi, this is Sarah Palin.
Ryan, Donald Trump Jr.
Harsh to win, see you. Hey, everybody, I want y'all to check out a fellow Marines podcast.
My name is Ted Nugent, and I got a call from my buddy Ryan F. Samuels, and he wants me to tell you that he's a working hard, playing all-American son of a who is celebrating God, family, country.
Welcome to the Ryan Samuels Show, one of the top political podcasts in the United States, where we have a healthy distrust for government and mainstream media. The Ryan Samuels Show is a raw, unfiltered look at American politics. Follow on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Here is your host, Ryan Samuels.
Good evening, America. Welcome to the Ryan Samuels Show. We have a really good show this evening. We are going to cover data centers. Data centers are the topic, but here is the question. What if I told you the most consequential buildings in the United States are not in Washington? They have no dome. They have no gallery. They have no voters. They sit behind fences, humming in the dark, and they do not sleep. What if I told you they are not warehouses for your vacation pictures? That was the story we were sold. A cloud, storage, convenience, a digital attic for the family album and the tax return. A harmless place where yesterday's email goes to live. That story is obsolete. What if the new data center is not an attic? What if it is a factory that does not stamp steel? It stamps thought. It trains machines on the written record of our civilization. Books, code, conversations, medical charts, court files, your questions at 2 a.m. And then it sells the answers back to you as if they were wisdom. What if every prompt you type is not a question? What if it is a deposition given without counsel? Taken without warrant, retained without an end date. The Fourth Amendment was written for papers in a desk and effects in a home. The founders never imagined a warehouse in Virginia that could hold the papers of 100 million homes at once and search them in a second. What if the search is no longer conducted by a deputy with a warrant signed by the judge? What if the search is the business model? 5 corporations, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta, Oracle, and the model makers who rent their floors, OpenAI, XAI, the rest. They do not merely store what you gave them. They still compute on it. They distill it. They keep the weights, the so-called mind of the machine, and they keep the residue of you that made the mind possible. What if the government does not need to build this? What if it only needs to ask or buy or regulate or frighten? National security, the race with China, the emergency that never expires. What if the gravest threat to liberty in this generation is not a midnight raid? What if it is a polite terms of service agreement and a building you will never be allowed to enter? Tonight, we ask a simple question the press will not ask cleanly. What is inside the data center? Who owns it? And whether a free people can remain free when the memory of the nation no longer lives in the citizen, but in the machine that does not answer to him. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Don't forget, you can call into the show, 561-786-2916. We will be right back. Data centers are going up everywhere in the United States. In every city councils are having meetings left and right. I think we have some videos of them. And it's all about AI. And the reason they're doing it is, number one, it's being done locally mostly by local city councils, local ordinance, local mayors, local county commissioners are allowing these data centers to be built. And they're allowing them to be built in places where they're using a ton of water just because of how much energy they use and how much heat they produce, and that they have to be cooled down. It really is a pretty scary thing. One of the things that I've actually found out by doing a little bit of research is that they make an insane amount of noise. Here's a video about Virginia where residents are actually like having to put mattresses in their windows.
Imagine living next to this and having to hear this constant ringing.
So Hari, we're at your front door.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look in the distance, and there it is.
There it is. It's right there in all its glory.
There it is, the Vantage Data Center, standing tall with its blue walls and massive generators right next to this Sterling, Virginia neighborhood.
What did you think when they first turned it on?
Well, we were told in the beginning that it's just they test the generators to make sure they're working in case of an emergency. That is what we were told in the beginning. And then as the year and the months have gone on,
They just never turned off?
They're just never turned off.
Hari says they told them the generators were just temporary, but that was more than a year ago. The massive data center was never hooked up to the power grid, so the generators are the only source of electricity.
You just hear this noise, it's just like, you just want to curse, you know, it's that bad.
Greg Pirio also lives right next door.
Our concern is property values. Unless we can mitigate this, and we're talking about lawyers with options of what we can do and all that, you know, we know that we're not going to get the values for our homes that we could have gotten before.
It's about more than money, it's quality of life. One neighbor here even put plexiglass up against the window to block the noise. And they have their own sound meters to monitor the noise.
This is a dashboard that some of my neighbors set up.
Virginia is the data center epicenter of the world.
Could you imagine you're just living in your house and then they build this monstrosity across the street from you and run it off of diesel or gasoline generators with just insane? Like, I would be pissed too. But these data centers, like, look how massive this one building is. So how much information can you store in one building? How much information are you storing in hundreds of these data centers across the country? What national security measures are involved to protect it from foreign influence and foreign hacking and foreign malicious espionage activity?
Are hundreds of them, consuming more than 25% of the state's power, driving up electric bills.
They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community, and very substantially down.
President Trump's plan to keep the data centers off the power grid is good for keeping electric rates down. And there are positives with data centers. They create jobs when they're built.
Of course they create jobs.
Create local tax revenue, which helps schools. It can help lower
taxes. Got to have those.
Or property taxes. And they're pretty much inevitable with the way we use technology these days.
That's a good one. They're pretty much inevitable.
Arguably becoming essential infrastructure. The neighbors here don't disagree, and they don't hate all data centers, but think they shouldn't be so close to neighborhoods.
What would you say to people in other parts of the country where they hear, oh, a data center's considering coming?
Do everything in your power to try to stop it from being built in an area that has any residential properties within, 10 to 15 miles of it.
And the mattresses come in, by the way, Blake. There is one guy who put a mattress up over his window because the noise sometimes gets so loud. In terms of the data center here, they have said in the past that they're monitoring the noise. They don't believe that they've gone outside the norms or what's allowed within the county here. But obviously the neighbors would disagree.
Of course. You expect a data center to come out and admit that they're doing something wrong or something they don't like? This isn't just in Virginia. Yeah, this is happening in Virginia, but it's happening all across the country. This is from a data center in Massachusetts.
What would you do if a data center moved into your backyard?
Move
I
out
am
of
in
it.
Lowell, Massachusetts, where a data center quite literally moved into the middle of town. This is a perfectly normal New England town, and boom, data center. It's just feet away from some residents' properties.
Be out in my yard and I'd feel water on my head, raindrops and it'd be from the cooling towers.
And when they turn them on, the black smoke that comes out of this stack here and the one next to it, it's so bad, it comes up here and it just settles in the yard.
The thing that sets off emissions is like right next to my house and it makes like a lot of noise. So it wakes me up in the morning so I can't really sleep.
But my wife wouldn't enjoy our yard because she couldn't come out, it was too noisy. And for her to go to the car, she had to wear earmuffs. Like right there, actually.
Yeah. So the noise thing is corroborated not only in Virginia, but in Massachusetts. And why aren't they on the local grid? Is it because they'll just take up too much power? That's something we got to find out.
Yeah, they have a rash of for sale signs on houses in the area.
We putting the house on the market.
Now?
We're leaving. Yeah.
Because of the data center?
Yep. This isn't what we want. My wife has been here her whole life and was born on this street in 1963.
One of the biggest concerns that people keep telling me is that the values of their properties may go down now that they have a data center in their backyard.
People have said, oh, is that a prison over there? So I do think it would knock down the value of the house. People would come and look at the house and look out the back windows and they'd see that.
I bought this house as for my son, for him to grow up in it and for us to build a home that it can affect the home value, it can affect the water that we consume.
I am on someone's back porch, and this is their lovely view of the data center.
It's just like a huge black box that kind of ruins the view.
Just remember driving by and that big building was there, like a big...
They're massive.
Black, scary building.
Everywhere I go in town, I keep just running back into the fence, this black, spiky fence. People also keep telling me that they're freaked out by the amount of cameras that are along the fence and can see into their yards and houses.
And those cameras, I mean, I think they're very invasive.
It's like 4 different cameras pointed at my house. And like you can see like me coming out, me coming in my house, and sometimes you can even see through the window.
Eileen Castle, who lives in this house but didn't want to be in the video, told me that there was a camera from the data center that she believed could see into her kitchen. Mockley, the company behind the data center, staunchly disagrees with this. They sent me 13 letters from people who are in support of the data center being there. They say that Lowell's always been an industrial place, so the data center shouldn't be seen as out of the ordinary for the neighborhood, that the neighbors are exaggerating the noise, and that the cameras can't see into the neighbors' homes.
Well, if they're exaggerating the noise in Massachusetts, they must also be exaggerating the noise in Virginia and the rest of the country. The noise is just the beginning of the problem. The noise, whatever, it's noise. It's a factory. It'd be no different if they put in a sewing machine factory or a Fig Newton factory. Like, factories make noise. They're producing things. But it's taking over agricultural space, which is concerning for some. So this is Texas Commissioner of Agriculture, Sid Miller. He is very concerned about data centers in Texas. Let's just hear what he has to say.
Okay, and then comes this not unrelated but not directly connected story about AI and farmland. If we don't get our cattle supply up, couldn't one argue, well, you're doing something with your land, you know, selling it to an AI company that can make money off of it, you know, versus unless we're going to get more cattle, what's it doing?
Well, we do a lot of that. Actually, that we lose about a farm a week here in Texas, either data centers, solar farms, wind farms, housing, parks, airports. I mean, you name it. So urban encroachment is getting more farmland than anything else.
Are you worried about these data centers?
I'm very worried about the data centers. We're going way too fast. Here in Texas, the reason they're coming to Texas, there's in our counties have no oversight ability, so they can just do whatever. If they can pick a place that has no groundwater conservation district, and the county has no ordinance, they can do whatever they want. So that's why I called on the governor, Abbott, for a 1-year pause, a moratorium. Let's wait. Let's let the legislature meet. Let's put some guidelines, some oversight on this industry, and September 1st of 27, we'll have a handle of this. He refused to do that. Then I called him and said, well, if you're not going to do that, let's do a special session. You can call the guys in and gals in tomorrow. We'll get on this. If it's the only thing on the call, we'll have it done in a week. Give it immediate effect. We can control the growth of this industry. He refused to do that. And the reason he's got a huge conflict of interest, Governor Abbott's taking millions of dollars from the data center industry. I said, you know, Governor, you ought to just give that back. If you truly are flip-flopping and you were big on bringing the data centers in, but now you're trying to, you know, right before the midterm election, trying to, you know, garner votes by looking tough on data centers, give the money back. He's refused to do that. No moratorium, no special session, has not returned the donations.
All right.
Interesting. And I wonder if there's a correlation between losing a cattle farm a week in Texas and with beef prices going so high through the roof that Trump is now importing beef from other countries in order to drive the prices down. If they're losing a farm a week in Texas, it's 52 times 50 states a week. That's a lot of farms. 50 farms a week of cattle or of whatever else they're raising gone. And you wonder why cattle prices are going through the roof. Here is Donald Trump bragging about data centers. I don't agree with this. I do not like this at all. I hate it.
And I can say if I were the mayor of a town or the governor of a state, and I had a chance to get a big plant in, an AI plant or a data center, I would absolutely want it because the jobs are enormous and the money paid, the taxes paid are just enormous. And if you don't take it, you're going to be left behind because there are plenty of places that want it. So I would say that maybe it can use a little public relations help. But if I were a governor or mayor, I would want that plant in my, and I can say,
from the horse's mouth. So why would Governor Abbott fight him? Why would Republican governors fight him? Sure, it's good. It's great. You got electricians, you got plumbers, you got construction workers, you got data center employees. You're producing massive jobs that are benefiting the entire world. Yeah, there's an upside to it for sure. But the rapid speed in which they're going up under the guise of keeping AI and controlling AI to basically be in a technology war with China and the rest of the world, that we have to own the AI space and we have to build it faster and better than anybody. It's being done under the guise of safety, under the guise of national security. At the same time, you got flock cameras all over the United States tracking people's license plates and sharing information with each other, being stored in data centers or anywhere else. Here's Mike Rowe talking about electricians.
Mike Rowe joins me now. He's the dirty jobs guy. All right, Mike, you've met with data center electricians in Texas. They're under 30 and they're making $200,000 a year. They don't have any college debt. Why do you think that some schools dismiss skilled trades as kind of a consolation prize? Why do they do that?
Two things. The electricians that I met most recently at a data center in Plano were making $260,000 a year, It's true they had no debt, but the most consequential component of that meeting was the fact that all three of them had been poached 3 times in the prior 18 months. That's what's going on in certain parts of the country in the electric game right now. It's like the draft in the major leagues. For the second part of your question, I'll tell you this. 16 years ago this month, I was in D.C. I testified before both houses of Congress about the need for some kind of national effort to reinvigorate the trades. That was the first time I said those words out loud, along with the phrase, we have to stop categorizing an entire chunk of our workforce as people who have won some vocational consolation prize, because that's what we did. When we put our thumb on the scale for one form of education, right, a university 4-year degree, when we said that that was the best path for the most people, we implicitly suggested that anyone with the temerity to embark upon a different path was indeed the proud owner of something second class.
All of that is true. And I'm glad that people with trades are making money, a ton of money. But that does not mean that data centers are good or are a great idea. It doesn't mean that they're not dangerous to your freedom or your liberties. It doesn't mean that government is not going to use them to further abuse its power. That's my concern. And AI, it serves a substantial threat if it's not controlled. And it has to be controlled by the people. It has to be limited in its scope. It has to have accesses that government cannot access, because if it can scour everything in a moment's notice, if you take AI and you punch in, if you use Grok or ChatGPT, punch in the Ryan Samuel Show. It'll tell you everything. Everything, where we are, every review, who I am, where I'm from, where I went to college, everything in a moment's notice. Now imagine the government can do that with every individual, right? I'm a public figure. It's different. I understand that. I'm out in the open. But if they do that to John Smith of Biloxi, Mississippi, who's just a normal average day John or normal average day Joe, and they can search all of his emails, all of his text messages, all of his phone calls, have all of the flock cameras, find out where he was, but just one person at one keyboard. That's the dangers of AI, and that's where it is already. Imagine where it'll be in 20 years. Here's Donald Trump again celebrating how awesome it is.
Protection plan to me is very important, because you have to convince your community how great these things. You can't fight it. You have to go with it. And you're going to have all that protection, and we're giving you automatic protection, but you're going to make a tremendous amount of money. You're going to reduce taxes, and you're going to have something that if you don't have it, everybody else wants it. So these are the smartest people. Most of you in this room, we have a couple probably on the other side of things. They disagree, but I don't know how they can disagree. Your community and your state's going to become rich, and there's very little disruption. And again, if you don't take all that money, somebody else is going to take it. You might as well do it yourself. The ratepayer.
Again, he's saying the same thing. That's a different subject, a different time. The Republicans wholeheartedly support this. They support big business. They want to get the economy going. I get it. I understand. I do. I'm not mad at them. Donald Trump wants the best economy in the world. This will help you maintain the status of the best economy in the world. This will help you build on that status even further. The data center situation is producing more jobs, more income, more tax income than any program since probably FDR. Because they're doing it all across the country. Great for the economy, horrible for your liberty. Horrible for your liberty. Horrible for agriculture. And then you hear why they're talking about they're pushing lab-grown meats. Is it because we're getting rid of all the farms? and we can't produce enough meat supply to support ourselves. And then on top of that, we had the border wide open for 4 years under Joe Biden. We can't afford to feed ourselves, so we have to produce meat in a lab. We have to genetically modify corn syrup and turn it into food. All things to think about.
Well, everybody is talking about data centers in Texas because Texans are big mad about data centers.
Good. Good. They should be.
And so the governor invited them all into Texas with very generous tax breaks, the most generous in the whole country. And so there's now this gold rush of data centers into especially rural Texas. And so Greg Abbott is messaging different, but his actions are the same. He is basically auditing himself. He is writing letters to himself. It's to the agencies where he appoints everybody. Everybody knows that come November 4th, the day after the election, he'll sing a new song, right? The only way we can have real protections in place for people is to pass laws. And so I've called on Governor Abbott to have a special session today. Remember when he had a special session last year on mid-decade redistricting?
Yeah, Donald Trump told him to.
That's right. Well, the people of Texas have been telling him that we need protections against data centers. He refuses to act in a meaningful way. And so people don't buy it. He is backpedaling on the data center issues, and people see it for exactly what it is. It is an election time political ploy.
What law? It's not an election time political ploy. This is MS Now, or formerly known as MSNBC. I'm sure you can tell by the images of the cast that they are all retards. It's not that. It's not, let's finish the video, and then I'll tell you more about that.
Law would you pass if you were governor?
People want a seat at the table so that they can have a say in whether and how these data centers come to their communities. Right now in these rural areas, they have no zoning regulations. Their local officials have no say over anything with these data centers. So, for instance, they are coming into these rural areas that don't have paid EMS, they don't have paid firefighters, and there are these hyper-scale data centers. Somebody was electrocuted building one. They don't even require licensed electricians on site. There are just no rules. And so there's all sorts of ways we need to protect Texans against what is happening, but they just...
To say you don't need a licensed electrician to do the electricity or to at least supervise the electricity is the dumbest statement I think I've ever seen on MSNBC. Carpenter Mikey, I would assume your name is Mike. If you want data centers, put them in the middle of the desert. You're not destroying anything out there. That's a good point. You should probably try to put them where they're not disrupting anything. I definitely agree with that. But Governor Abbott did get massive backlash from Texans, as you should. You should for this, 100%. They're saying he's backpedaling because it's election season. No, he's afraid of Donald Trump. If you're a Republican politician, you are afraid to go after or go against Donald Trump. If he's not going to get his agenda passed, he's going to destroy you. We saw it with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We saw it with Thomas Massie. I'm not saying like right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm not. You make that decision by yourself. What I'm saying is that that's not why. He's trying to answer to Texans, but he also has to deal with the backlash of the Republican Party, who wants a strong national economy, who wants to get people back to work, who wants to get gas prices down, who wants to get inflation down. Because the economy is the number one important thing for the midterm elections, for any elections. It's going to be the number one most important thing in the 2028 election, where hopefully J.D. Vance becomes the next president of the United States. That's what it is. Let's listen to this Fox News report about just AI's rapid growth.
I believe it, Jesse. Let's settle the argument here. Is it data centers or data centers? Because or Galaxy. What do you
I have a new one. It's not Galaxy castles anymore.
Okay.
Golden tickets.
Golden
tickets from Willy Wonka.
Willy
Yeah.
Wonka.
Everyone wants a golden ticket in their yard, right?
Yep.
Because these towns have to shake these companies down. Zuckerberg is spending $143 billion this year building out AI infrastructure. And he has a $1 billion slush fund that he's just going to throw at towns. What do you want? What do you need? They're giving $50,000 bonuses to teachers in this town in Louisiana. They're going to police chiefs. What do you guys want? What do you guys want? We'll give it to you. Superintendents, give you anything you want. Let me tell you a little bit about a place called Loudoun County, Virginia.
Should a private corporation be able to give local public school officials bonuses in order to get them on their side to build AI data tracking centers? No, you're bribing them. You're bribing the police. That's what you're doing. So I've always made this argument, and I've gotten a lot of backlash, right? I believe wholeheartedly in capitalism. I believe in individual liberty. I believe in capitalism. But I also believe that once you become a publicly traded company, once you become a public entity and you issue an IPO or an initial public offering, and millions of, if not billions of people fund you one way or another, right? Say millions of people fund you through their 401k or their investments. You're no longer a privately owned entity. You're a publicly owned entity. You're the same thing as a government. So you should be held to the same standard as a government. You should have the same restrictions as a government when it comes to liberty and restricting speech and spying on people. Nobody in the history of man could ever anticipate technology would get this far. Nobody. Let's listen to Loudoun County, Virginia.
Virginia. Loudoun County, Virginia just built a $100 million rec center. 3 pools, hydro massage chairs. I don't even know what that is. $22 million park. They just cut property taxes by 60%. You want to know why? They got data centers there, and they slap taxes on them, and they're making an extra $1.3 billion a year. They don't even know what to do with all the money. There's like not a single pothole. They're building schools, extra fire trucks.
So
all you have to do is you shake Zuck down, Bezos. You say, guys, you want to build a data center? Fine. We're going to slap a 2% tax on it, and it's gonna be a golden shower of money.
Does that sit right with you? Because it doesn't sit right with people in the United States. It doesn't. And people are showing up. People are showing up to these cities councils meetings, and the city council doesn't care. They're getting paid millions of dollars, more money than the city or the county has ever seen in its history combined. They just gave us $1 billion for this town. We don't care what anybody in this town has to say. But they're using eminent domain. Now, this is one of the things I talk about all the time. One of my questions I usually ask is are parts of the constitutional unconstitutional? And the answer to that question is yes. Now you say, Ryan, how can a part of the Constitution be unconstitutional? Well, one that restricts or removes somebody's property without due process, without being convicted of a crime, simply because the government needs it. That would be the second part of the Fifth Amendment of eminent domain. Now, this is an argument that Hamilton made, that, you know, we need roads and we need public schools and we need everything. And we have to be able to take somebody's property. if they don't want to sell it to us. That's what these private entities have colluded with the federal government and your local governments to do. We want to put a data center here. People live here. You have to kick them out of their homes and give their property to us, and then we're going to give you whatever fair market value is for the house. Nothing extra, nothing more for your inconvenience. That's in our United States Constitution. It's called eminent domain, the Fifth Amendment. Look it up. It's a horrible atrocity at the Constitutional Convention. James Madison hated it. Thomas Jefferson hated it. Benjamin Franklin hated it. John Adams even hated it. I mean, you could probably call it a compromise. But if you have the right to life, liberty, property, the pursuit of happiness, then that can't be taken away from you. You know what else is your property? Is your hand. They can't chop it off. But it sets the precedent for the greater good. And that gives the government a tremendous amount of power over you. As long as it's for the greater good, then government can do it. And what will government always do? Make an argument that this is for the greater good, as we have seen Donald Trump do today. Here is a family. I haven't watched the video. I just read the title. Being kicked off of their farm from eminent domain for a data center.
My name is Brianna Rice, Robinson Road. Speaking for myself, I'm 28 years old. While most people my age are planning vacations, I'm spending my time fighting for survival of my cattle farm. I'm here because a massive data center was approved just a couple of miles from my land, Project Cell, and I'm being hounded by Georgia Power for an easement to build transmission lines through my property for the FET data center. I'm a local farmer, not an industrial developer. These 500 kV lines aren't for me. They are for the data centers that the boards and surrounding counties continue to approve. I have mail from lawyers stacking up on my kitchen table wanting to take my case because they know my land is being targeted for eminent domain. Okay, let's see. I shouldn't have to worry about the specific wording of a legal contract just to keep my own land from being industrialized. When the FET data center was first brought up, it should have been brought attention to all that would be impacted. I did not have a voice to speak my mind, and that feels like an infringement on my First Amendment rights. These easements are permanent. They affect my ability to graze my cattle, they lower my property value, and they destroy the rural character of this county forever. This board makes decisions to approve these massive projects, but it's residents like me, young people trying to build a life here, who pay the price. You're voting to turn our farms into a network of high voltage wires and noisy industrial buildings. I'm asking you to realize the real world impacts of your votes. Every time you say yes to a data center, you're saying no to a local farmer. We aren't just numbers on a map. We are the future of the county. And right now you're making that future impossible. Respectfully, take that cow off the logo. Thank you. And I do have bigger fish to fry.
You know what that does? Do you know what that's supposed to help you? Going to your local city council and your local communities, it's supposed to help you. But it doesn't if they're all being paid off. Imagine somebody took a check so that they will cut a check to somebody else for your property. What if that means you're not free? If the government can come and take your property whenever it wants for any reason, any road, any park, any building, how are you free? The biggest flex on the United States of America has always been that you own your own land. That's something reserved for kings and royalty and noblemen across the world before the United States. We had property. They gave it out for free when they wanted people to move west. You just went and stuck a flag in the ground and you took 40 acres. They were yours. Here's another lady speaking about data centers. Pissed off.
You have been given so many warnings. We are done warning you. You can either end this project, resign effective immediately, or we will take legal action to protect the children, nature, and
The city.
God, that was ear screeching. Oh, God, I do not like her.
of Kenilworth, New Jersey has had enough. Protests have erupted over the last couple of months over the $1.8 billion data center the city's councilman approved to be built.
You are using an abuse of power, and you are guilty of public endangerment. Because again, it has been factually proven that these hyperscale data centers, they poison people, they hurt children, and they will accelerate the climate crisis we are all facing.
Nobody's facing a climate crisis, but okay.
The data center will be owned and operated.
You almost had it, kiddo.
By CoreWeave, a company that calls itself the cloud of AI.
Yeah, that's what I want. A cloud of AI on top of AI, which is a cloud. Controlled by people whose brains are in the clouds. Here's another MS Now program about Texas. Texas seems to be the heart of this battle, as it usually is.
Well, in a Substack post earlier this summer, you didn't call for data centers to be banned because that might be verging on Ludditeness, but you did think we should ban subsidies for these data centers. Tell me, I'm going to actually read a little of what you wrote. You said data centers should be located where they provide tangible benefit to the community, not where they can engage in the most extraction, and eliminating the ability of the tech industry to claim tax handouts for building them is step one toward achieving that dynamic. Tell me more about this, because that seems to be the complaint a lot of people, one of the complaints people have, that you're giving them these tax benefits, they're not really creating jobs.
100%. It's one of the main complaints, and for a very, very good reason. You know, I've been covering economic development issues going back to 2008, and honestly, that was the last time that I saw people as angry at an industry as they are now at data centers. Back then, it was the banks. Today, it's the tech firms that are building these data centers everywhere, and the tax subsidies are a big part of it. A data center is one of the absolute worst economic development tools that you can have in a community. It doesn't create jobs, as you said. It doesn't create any knock-on economic effects, because the only thing that wants to be located next to a data center is another data center.
God, I swear, MSNBC, man, they drive me insane. You have this perfect opportunity to be against data centers and be right about it, and you turn it into some dumb comment with the worst voice a man has ever possessed. How could you say a $100 million building isn't producing jobs? Somebody's got to build the building. Somebody's got to lay the concrete. Somebody's got to do the pipes. Somebody's got to do the framing. Somebody's got to do the electrical. Somebody has to do the employment. Somebody has to manage the place. Somebody has to be an engineer. Somebody has to do the elevator. Somebody has to do the stairs. Somebody has to do the carpet. Somebody has to do the tile. Somebody has to do the toilets. And MSNBC's argument against data centers is that it doesn't produce a job, because the only thing it produces is another data center next to it. I never cut videos off, but I'm cutting that one off because it's just so stupid. Here's Trump again. He's saying the same thing, notice. Like almost word for word. Just this is him out on the tarmac.
Some people feel differently. I really want them. If a Republican's against the data center, that's okay with me. I'm only saying that if I ran a community, now there are different types of communities, but generally speaking, if I ran a community, if I was a mayor or if I was a governor in a state, I would want to have the data centers because they bring tremendous income. They're clean. They produce their own energy. The new ones are producing their own energy. I would want to have data centers. Some people feel...
This is the classic Donald Trump. And it's great for a multitude of reasons. It's great for a multitude of reasons. Donald Trump has no political philosophy. He is a businessman. He wants to make this place great the way that he feels it should be, and he's not really interested in certain things. He doesn't really get passionate about abortion, or he doesn't really get passionate about gun rights. Him and Pam Bondi had actually said previously that you should take the guns first and then due process later. Take the guns first and then due process later. He's not a pro-gun. He's not a massive pro-gun guy. He banned bump stocks on rifles. He is a free speech guy because he fell victim to being banned from Twitter and Facebook and all social media to the point where he had to buy his own social media platform. But as far as a president or a traditional conservative president, like say a Ronald Reagan, would stand there and talk about individual liberties and freedom of speech and freedom of the press and freedom of privacy and the right to be left alone. You don't see Donald Trump doing that because he's not really that interested in it. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because what he is doing and how he is pushing these data centers is going to be very good for the economy, and that's what he wants. He doesn't care about the ancillary nuance that gets in the way. He doesn't want to be bothered with it. He just wants it to be successful. Hey, Michelle, welcome on. Good to see you. My college roommate's family farm is now at the bottom of a lake, and they had to sue to be compensated fairly. Guess where our state is really bad about this? So that's the thing about eminent domain. And if you guys are just jumping on now, eminent domain, the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, says they can steal your property, and then later you get due process. But the due process that you get later is not that you get to go to court and you say, listen, Facebook came here, my government took my property, and they put a Facebook building on it. And then the government goes, the judge goes, was that really necessary for the greater good? No, we're giving you your property back. That's not how it works. You argue about the value of the property. That's all it's about. How much is your property worth? That's the only thing the hearing is about with an eminent domain procedure. They take your home, and then the government argues it's worth less than you say that it is after they stole your property for their corporate friends. Truth. I'm not a Democrat, but that is true. Fact check me right now. Prove me wrong. You won't be able to. And how do you stop it? How? How could you possibly stop a situation where local city council members who make $40,000, $45,000 a year in small towns, in rural towns, who are paying school teachers $30,000 a year, that Facebook can't be here after Facebook swore that they're going to give them $100 million to disperse however they see fit, for the police officers, for the county roads, a new city hall, a new courthouse, a new school, maybe a local college, maybe a coliseum, maybe a sports team. How are you going to tell a small town city council don't accept that money? They're not going to. That's why big business and government should be completely separated. Don't forget, this Friday, we have Arnold Yan coming on. Now, Arnold's story is incredible. It's amazing. And I can't believe it's not one of the biggest stories in the United States. He's sued multiple judges, multiple lawyers in his family court case out of Texas. Now, he's going to be here live on the show to tell you his story. I've reached out to the people that he has sued, that he's made these allegations about, they have given me interesting statements. We're going to go over it Friday. Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be streamed here, but I'm going to use Rumble Studio because it's just a little bit more effective. Do not miss out on that. Put it in your calendars now. It's going to be a huge show. And then we have a very special guest, which I'm going to announce tomorrow on the show. Don't forget, we're live Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Family Court Fridays has officially begun. Arnold Yan is our first guest. I have hundreds of requests for people who've just been completely and utterly destroyed by the government in family court. There's so many requests, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get through them all. But we're going to find a bunch of them, and we're going to do them every Friday. JD, how are you, buddy? Welcome on. It's theft for sure. It is theft. It is theft. Jefferson was in France at the time as the ambassador to France, and he argued through Madison that the only way property can be taken is if it is voluntary by the individual, or if it is taken by due process, that I stole your house or I stole your car, and you're telling the court that Ryan stole my car, and I'm saying, no, this is my car, this is my property, you can't take it, and I go to court and I lose, and then the government takes what's my property and gives it back to the person whose property it was to begin with. Eminent domain is a very big wrinkle in the Constitution. We should do a whole show on it, honestly. Because it's one of those things you just cannot uncorrect. Mikey says eminent domain should be for government only. Quit stealing people's livelihood and family homes for corporations. If the corporations want the land so bad, they can pay. But I will never, the price, I will never sell price. Yeah. If they have all this money to give all these teachers, if your house is worth $400,000, why can't a big corporation come in and say, hey, I'll give you $700,000? Instead of paying off the government, they should be paying off the people, and the people can choose if they want to sell their home or not. I agree with you, Mikey. Glad to have you here. But thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and we will see you tomorrow night.
Thanks for tuning in to The Ryan Samuels Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.